A nice one to pick for the big.
You are all I want to know. You hold my heart, so don't let go. You are all I need to live. My love to you I'll give. You are all I want to know. Oh, my Sarah, don't let go. Oh, my Sarah.
Friday night or Friday evening.
Friday night. Hello. Good night, Steve.
welcome to another That Album, and I'm joined by Helen. Hang on a second, I've got the pronunciation.
Roshin
Dove. Yeah. To look at a bit of Thin Lizzy. I thought I'd start with that song because that was from this album, one of the songs that was most visible to me, primarily because I was, like I said, 13.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit older than that. And I had a terrible crush on a girl called Sarah at school.
Okay.
And every time this came on, it was like a dagger to my heart because she wasn't interested in me. So here we are. Thin Lizzy, making of Black Rose, a rock legend.
Yes.
1979. As we were saying before we went live, an interesting time. The Winter of Discontent, Scottish devolution referendum, the Jubilee line opened in London. Margaret Thatcher was elected. Still polarises opinion today.
Okay.
Everybody know where I stand on this. Yorkshire Ripper in full swing. So a very kind of a very different world to the world that we live in now. Some interesting people born. Will Young, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, James McAvoy, Johnny Wilkinson, Jamie Cullum, Sid Vicious, and Richard Beckinsale and Gracie Fields all died. Some good films. Moonraker, Mad Max, Alien, Quadrophenia, Time After Time, Escape from Alcatraz, The Black Hole, and Star Trek The Motion Picture. Books, Viz Comic launched in 1979, and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was first published. But albums, oh my God, what a time for music.
Yeah.
So London Calling, that we've done on the show. We Are Family, Sister Sledge, that we've done on the show. The Specials that we've done on the show. The specials that is. But The Wall that we've done on the show. But also Tusk, Breakfast in America, Off the Wall, In Through the Outdoor, Highway to Hell, Regatta de Blanc, Discovery, Communique, and albums from ABBA, Diana Ross, Ry Cooder, Donna Summer, Wings, Van Halen, Bee Gees, Kiss, David Bowie, Tom Petty, Neil Young, The Jam, Blondie, Eagles, Joe Jackson, Motorhead, and The Cure. So quite a good year for music.
For the roses.
Yeah, absolutely. So why this album? Why Thin Lizzy?
Well, for me, I think I mentioned before that I was in university at the point that this album came out, and it was also a seminal period in my sort of entry into adulthood and my whole political awareness as well as musical awareness. And so I had got in college. I got very involved in student union politics, and Ireland was going through a particularly complex time at that stage. And, you know, little stories of hearing about, you know, going into places. In fact, I had a near experience myself at the time about going into certain establishments that said simply no blacks, no Irish, no women. You know, it was that harsh in a way. But being also in the Students' Union, we were doing a lot in terms of music and getting into the music festivals and things like that. And you know, I'd have to say Phil Lynott was one of our own. Born 1949, all right. But again, if I think about prior to going into university, that, you know, 1970 was when he really started putting together the story of the trio, the original trio, which had Brian Downey as drums, and the guitarist Eric Bell.
Mm.
And, you know, other musicians that were coming on Target at the time were people like Huey Lewis and Mark Knopfler, for example, who were guests on a lot of some of the shows that Thin Lizzy were getting involved in. But as I said, 1970s was pretty well known as the heavy rock revolution had begun. And it had entered Ireland, which was really, really a huge liberation, if you want to call it, in a very staid, Catholic-ridden Ireland, as it were. And so it was through this music that became the backdrop of how I got involved in things, how I became sensitized to issues that were on a world scale. This album, I'll mention one other thing. There is a guitarist on this album who stayed long enough this time in Thin Lizzy to actually provide the dual guitar bass to it, and that was Gary Moore. And I have to say, from the first time I ever heard Gary Moore as a guitarist, my God, a legend, 100%, over and over and over again. And when we go through the different, the 9 different songs, including Sarah, you'll get this each time in one way or another. There's just this tribute all the time to something that I think I mentioned earlier to you, that, you know, okay, I'm not a guitarist myself, but boy, do I know how I feel when I actually hear such work going on before my very eyes. You know?
I mean, I think that this is a very interesting. I mean, amazing. So that they were formed in, indeed, what a legend. They were formed in 1969. This is the 9th album.
That's right, studio album. Yeah,
that's amazing, isn't it? 9 albums.
Yeah.
But as we were saying before we went live, I mean, Phil Lynott, what a man!
Yeah.
I mean, when you see
character,
when you see clips of him, just like the ultimate in stage presence and charisma that you rarely see. So the only other person that I have seen, and again, I'm not seen live, I know I won't now for obvious reasons, and the only other person that had a similar degree of like magnetism to them was Michael Hutchins from In Excess. You know, where literally they step out on the stage and it's like there's no one else in the room except this person on stage. And Phil Lynott, you know, clever lyrics, clever delivery of those, really a unique voice that's instantly recognizable. And this, although, you know, Thin Lizzy were big in the UK, still it was so, again, as we were saying before we went live, so of the time. Doesn't sound dated, but it's so of the time. And this was kind of part of the soundtrack of my teenage years, this kind of thing. So I mean, a great album, great band. So this was produced by Tony Visconti, also did work with David Bowie and T-Rex, and an amazing album at a difficult point in Lynott's life, because you know, this is a soundtrack to him becoming more and more dependent on drugs and all of those kind of things that were, well, particularly troubling for him, but a trouble for so many pop and rock stars. So
there's a naivety about his whole persona. It's that honesty that comes up and says, I'm going to deliver everything that I have, my passion, and I personally, I think this is rock at its very best. And for me, also the vocal delivery right across the 9 songs in this particular album are like none other. It's
absolutely. And it got generally favourable reviews when it came out, although there does seem to be some disparity. So, like the Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal gave it 10 out of 10, and All Music gave it 9 out of 10, or
Okay.
4.5 out of 5. Smash Hits gave it 6 out of 10. So, like, what's that about? Because I would have thought anybody in the music industry in this time would kind of go, "Oh wow, I am unworthy," kind of thing.
Yeah.
But a phenomenal album. It's a love letter to Irish culture. Is a kind of like an interesting vignette about it that somebody said.
Yeah, and it stands the story of time basically, because it's still a love letter to Irish culture as we have it.
Yeah, and 5 singles from the album.
Yeah,
and an EP as well.
that's right.
With the EP had "Boys Are Back in Town," which is everybody's favourite Thin Lizzy song, isn't it? So let's kick off with the first one. Do Anything You Want. The first one on the side one.
I love how this starts.
Yeah, I mean it's
Bring out the drums.
yeah. So here we go. Do Anything You Want To.
Beating heart.
There are people that will investigate you. They'll insinuate until they complicate you. Don't ever wait or hesitate to state the fate that awaits those who try to shake or take you. Don't let them break you. You can do anything you want to do. It's not wrong what I say, it's true. You can do anything you want to do. Do what you want to.
Okay. Yes.
So I'll have to read this because it's quite a
Turn
long
it off.
and it doesn't a nice little story about this album. My sister, thanks Mark, who's 10 years older than me, is a prolific knitter, and back in the day used to knit amazing jumpers of her own designs. To pay a friend of theirs for regular babysitting for her young son, she knitted him a black rose jumper. Oh, does she want to knit one for me as well?
Yeah, I
Come on for Helen.
Yes.
An exact replica of the album cover. He also happened to be studying music and journalism and wore it backstage to a Lizzy concert at the Granby Halls, Leicester. Phil was so taken with it that he asked if my sister would knit a copy for him. Oh my God, that's just fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Wow.
She wouldn't have, she'd never knitted the same design twice. Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
The lyrics for this, the opening lyrics, there are people that will investigate you, that insulate, intimidate, and complicate you. Don't ever wait or hesitate to state the fate that awaits those who try to shake or take it. I mean, I think we should have the opening of that again, because the way that he delivers these lyrics, and they tumble from one line into the next with that kind of slightly blocked up nose, we all know why, blocked up nose delivery is just so endearing and engaging, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are people that will investigate you. They'll insinuate until they complicate you. Don't ever wait or hesitate to state the fate that awaits those who try to shake or take you. Don't let them break you.
Just amazing, and what a fantastic setting the tone for the album, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it was a mantra for me in 1979. You can do anything you want to. You can really don't compromise. Get out there, do it. And I bought into that big time.
Yeah, it's lovely. Even the most cursory comparisons suggest that it's not the case that that this was influenced or even plagiarized from the earlier song "Do Anything You Want to Do," that was by Eddie and the Hot Rods.
Okay.
This is his own viewpoint, and apart from similar titles, the two songs have about as much in common as Bowie's "Laughing Gnome" with Al Stewart's "Elf." Rather, it's simply another of those coincidences that happen so often in music. It has the trademark Thin Lizzy dual lead guitar, and this track is primarily drum based with an unusually heavy beat. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because the drum beat for this is something that you're kind of going, hold on, I've heard that somewhere else as well. I can't quite grip what it is. The lyrics reflect Lynyrt's rebellious spirit, and you certainly get the sense, even from this opening track, that he's a very focused, tough guy that doesn't want to play by the rules, isn't he?
Yeah. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
Right.
So, toughest street in town. It's
this is a long one. This is 4 minutes. This is 4 minutes, over 4 minutes. But for me, again, sitting back and just every time I listen to it, just listen to the guitar work in this now. But one of the key things going on is that the undercurrent is about drug use, and
yeah, I mean, it was increasingly becoming part of his and Gary Moore's life, wasn't it? The two of them taking drugs together.
That's right, yeah.
And ultimately, I mean, obviously, Gary Moore was able to survive this period, but Lynyrt not, unfortunately.
No. Boomtown Rats.
Yeah, I mean it's fantastic, isn't it? And like we were saying earlier, this was a much purer, simpler time, wasn't it? And kind of the way that he tells the stories remind me of that era of long summers and everybody trying to recite the Pepsi slogan that was printed on T-shirts, and just when there were simple pleasures. And it's so very different, so much more complicated these days, isn't it?
Well, at the same time, everything, you dare to dream, you dare to believe, you dare to get out and actually say and do things. I won't take up here, but I finding myself going into the 80s. And by the mid 80s, I found myself saying, how has everything dumbed down? How is everything, it came as a lament to me as the 80s progressed. So this was one of the seminal times, I think.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I do think that the 80s was it was a time of positivity. I think it built on this. You can achieve anything kind of attitude, and I think that it was an interesting time. This was the kind of just at the very end of punk that this was coming out, wasn't it? And there was like rock, Black Sabbaths and AC/DCs and that of the world, but there was this was like a new flavor of like hard pop almost, wasn't it?
Well, hard rock.
Yeah. So S&M, Track number 3. S&M was
There's some
yeah.
interest here.
Sorry, go on.
Black and Live.
Yeah, so Rihanna recorded a song called S&M 24 years after Phil Lynott died, 9 years before she was born. So during the 90s, there were no less than 3 biographies of Lynott and Thin Lizzy. They pulled no punches, but none of them even hinted that he or any member of the band was into S&M.
No.
So the probable inspiration for the song was twofold: to stick 2 fingers up at the feminist movement, and also to court controversy, as he was prone to do.
Yes.
So yeah, a great song, because this wasn't obviously at those times. There was a lot more reserved conservative attitudes in the world. So because this wasn't released as a single, it was banned. But a good song.
Into the arms of a sugar daddy. She's been having a good time. Oh, but she loved the daddy badly. She said, Daddy, what can I do? I want to spend my time making love to you. The daddy had to run. It turned good. Now he's gone. So now, mama.
Thing is, I could just listen to the whole album from end to end, because it's they're real toe tappers, really catchy. I love the fact that it isn't overproduced, because we were starting to get into that era of kind of electro synth pop where everything was kind of polished and buffed to within an inch of his life, and there's still that kind of a rawness to this that is quite exciting to listen to, isn't it, for that reason?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Getting along, yeah. I think one of the things is, I think a lot of the social issues that were happening in Ireland at the time were actually encapsulated throughout the 9 tracks of this album. That's my feeling and my view, looking at the Ireland of the day and the world stage of the day, and looking at my own, I suppose, upbringing as well, and looking about breaking the ceiling,
and breaking the rules as well.
Well, breaking the rules, but I mean, I found myself saying, "Jeepers, when you look at the line, Daddy, what can I do?" And then you've got the sugar daddy bit, but you've got drugs, you've got cultural issues, you've got biases, and again, I can only talk from the Irish end of things, not from the UK. I don't know if it was as exposed as it was in Ireland, but I mean, so many of the social issues needed to be dealt with,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember in this period at guest houses in London, there were signs that said "No blacks, no dogs, no Irish," and it was very a very divisive world, and people that were, there was an awful lot of xenophobia, and the funny side of that is watching programs like Fawlty Towers of this period, where it's sometimes quite hard or embarrassing to watch the show because of those incredibly outdated. They're outdated even then, but you know, even more so today. And Lynott must have had and maybe the fact that he was both black and Irish
Yeah.
impacted on his desirability to a UK audience, because I'm amazed that none of the songs in this went to number one. The album didn't go to number one.
No, number two. Okay.
But you know, it should
Yeah.
have got the top spot, and you know, this should have been a staple diet of turning on the TV and seeing this, because this was really good music, really well performed by really talented people,
Yeah.
and I feel that it didn't get the global.
No.
I don't know, the global recognition perhaps that it deserves as a great album, and you know, it's not to say, as we said at the beginning, you know, listing some of the artists and the albums that were coming out, you know, there was tough competition, but this is the equal of any of those
It's,
albums, isn't it?
and for those looking back and looking at, you know, re-examining Phil Lynnott's life and the music at the time, I find myself saying that there's regret. There's actually, I mean, regret actually started even back to the Live Aid time, where you you have, I mean, I think it's an urban legend. I believe that Thin Lizzy's albums sold more than Boomtown Rats, and yet you had Bob Geldof and you had Mr. who was so well associated with Thin Lizzy, and when they were putting together, you know, the Live Aid, nobody thought to say, well, hang on a second, one of the greats there that can. Now, admittedly, I mean, within 6 months of it, Phil Lynott had actually his demise had happened, but nevertheless, there is regret.
Mm.
There is regret, and I don't know, other than that, one of the things I think on the Irish landscape among people is there can be a lot of jealousy, and the jealousy for me is something. A lot of good talent was sidelined. Also class based as well, because you know, you had Phil in its local community, so in an area that I know very very well now, and you know, in the modern Ireland, but this, you know, he was living in Crumlin, and then you had the likes of Boomtown Rats, and they were up in the glorious Dunleary and, you know, Blackrock there. So there were a lot of tensions.
Yeah.
I'm only scratching the surface on this, but there were a lot of tensions.
Mm.
But it's looking back now that the recognition of just what a talent this was.
Absolutely.
And only the good die young. Isn't that a line out of a what dare I ask? Dare I remember where that line came in? But only the good die young, and I think you mentioned also. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going down.
Yeah. No. I mean, a very sad loss to the musical world.
Yes.
Because you know, there was clearly a lot more to come. So waiting for an alibi. This was released as a single, wasn't it? And
Yes.
this got to number 9 in the UK, number 6 in Ireland. Produced by Tony Visconti again,
Yeah.
and written by Lynott, as the majority were.
Yeah.
And another great song on the album.
Valentino got a boogie shot. What he takes, he gives for what he's got. And what he's got, he says he has not stole from anyone. It's not that he don't tell the truth, or even that he respects you. It's just he goes through. But you know something's wrong. Waiting for an alibi. Waiting for an alibi. Waiting for an alibi. Waiting for an alibi. Valentino's in a cold.
Yeah, I mean a nice story about a gambler that's down on his luck, and upbeat before we move on to a rare Thin Lizzy ballad.
That's right.
Because not many of these. And reading about this one, Gary Moore recorded 7 different guitar tracks and added them all together for this song, which sort of tribute,
yeah,
tribute to Lynette's daughter.
Yes, and just pure love, you know. Newborn daughter, yeah, gosh.
Yeah, and a great way and a quite an unusual way for Lizzy to round out the first side on the album.
Yes.
And like I said, you know, I think it's probably my favorite track.
Yeah, I get it.
When you came in my life, you changed my world, my Sarah. Everything seems so right, my baby girl, my Sarah. You are all I want to know. You hold my heart, so don't let it go. You are all I need to live. My love to you I'll give. My Sarah. When you begin to smile, you change my style, my Sarah. When I look in your eyes, I see my prize, my Sarah. You are all I want.
I just love that song.
It is, yeah. But to me, it shows a young man who is just not afraid to show his emotions, to actually celebrate and celebrate with such a naivety that's beautiful, you know.
Yeah, it's a very charming song, isn't it? And
joy. It's very joyful.
Absolutely. So I was checking to see who this was. Nigel, thank you. There you go, Mark. You need to get a copy of that book and give it to your sister, because that's quite a lovely story. Yeah, absolutely. So there we are. End of side 1. Flip the record over, and got to give it up.
Blues.
Yeah. Well, this. My notes on this. It says it's like an early cry for help from Phil.
Yeah.
And at this point, he was starting to take heavier and heavier drugs and drinking more, and he was clearly going through a tough time. So
again, it's the second longest track on the album, and it definitely is a song for a generation. I think if you're into 3 minutes and 22 seconds into it, you get this very, very soft undertone voice, and it's cry for from the darkness.
Yeah, so
but it has great poignant riffs as far as I'm concerned. Great guitar solo, Gary Moore again.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Sorry,
What a man.
I've got to give it up. 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 Tell my mama and tell my pa that their fine young son didn't get far. He made it to the end of a battle, sitting in a sleazy bar. He tried hard, but his spirit broke. He tried until he nearly choked. In the end, he lost his Bible, drinking alcohol. Got to give it up. Got to give it up. That's love. Got to give it up. I got to give it up. That's love. Tell my brother.
So I'll whiz it forward to 3 minutes 20 seconds.
I think 2022 around there.
You know what I'm talking about. Let's go. Let's go.
Now you wind down.
Interestingly, key fact, the most controversial track on the album, some fans loved its groove, others thought it was too disco influenced. I can't hear that at all myself, but there.
No, yeah. No, I just see it as sort of hard, late night, being there, understand that.
Yeah, so the title may well be a nod to Marvin Gaye's hit of the same name in 1979.
Gotta get it up.
So Get Out of Here, written by Phil Lynott and Midge Ure of Ultraloz, or Midge.
Major. And we're back to Major and back to Live Aid and Bob Geldof, and we'll say nothing more than that.
So apparently this was originally recorded by Ure's band Slick in 1977. So they beat Thin Lizzy to actually get this out there. It says in this review that I'm reading, upbeat, almost power pop with a catchy chorus. Simple breakup song.
Me,
Unusually straightforward for Lynott.
yeah, hard rock in my books anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's typical Thin Lizzy, but every time you put this on, it's his vocals that own the less so in Sarah, but in the other tracks, the way that he delivers them, this kind of one kind of phrase tripping over the next as he kind of blurs the line between the music and the lyrics and where the breaks are, just really clever and so distinctive. You know, there's no way that if you heard him singing a song, there's no way you could confuse it with anyone else, which I just think is delightful, because he's got his own
brand.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just it's amazing. So here we go. Get Out of Here.
That's it. I quit. Give up. You win. I lose. You win. You choose. You stay. I'll go. You stay. I lose. I used to be a dreamer, but I realized that it's not my style at all. In fact, it becomes clearer that a dreamer doesn't stand a chance at all. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Do I make myself clear? Must go, can't stay, must run, no chance. I can't give a second chance. There's no hope for you now, no romance, no romance. How could we stay together? No need him, no need for
Yeah, that's it.
no fear of you, no more, no more.
Okay.
Get out of here, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. Do I make it clear? Get out of here, get out of here. Pack up, give in, go home, get out.
That's quite something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Went out on Concord, I had to learn the songs on the plane.
Yeah.
Particularly impressive, A, because he learnt the songs on the plane, B, because he learnt the songs on Concorde of all planes, so he didn't have long to learn them, did he? But yeah, I mean, it's a great song. It's good and upbeat. It's got that powerful kind of driving Thin Lizzy sound that's so beguiling and enthralling, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tremendous.
The guitar work, once again, superb.
Yeah. It says the legacy for this song, often overlooked, but a fun, energetic, deep cut,
Yeah.
which I think is fine, isn't it? Because I think it does deserve to get more press than perhaps it's had.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So on to the penultimate track, With Love.
Well, yeah.
Go on. What do you
No,
think?
no, go on. Go on. Again, a lengthy one, leading with Phil Lynnett's vocals. I think the lyrics are brilliant on this one. Not to say that any other. But again, Gary Moore, for me, pulls this together so beautifully. It's just a good rock tune. It's a gem. It's
it
got the chords for 2 songs done. Okay.
in my notes, one of the least discussed tracks features some of Lynnett's most poetic lyrics.
Great B-side single is the best way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, again, it is the story that he tells. He's such a consummate storyteller, isn't he?
Yes.
In his work, and it's lovely to hear because he doesn't use the words and the phrases that I would use if I were telling those stories, but it paints an incredibly vivid picture, doesn't it, of his view of things.
Yeah.
So, With Love.
Enjoy.
It's a tedious existence, laying your love on the line. Resistance is useless. She can leave at any time. I must confess that in my quest I felt depressed and restless. But this Casanova's roving days are over, more or less. With love, with love, with love, with love. She's broke my heart and made me sad. She's broke my heart and made me sad. She's broke my heart. You foolish boy, you lost what you had.
yeah, it's the way he tells the story is what does it for me every time.
Yeah. Do you know, just a little, I don't know whether known fact or not, but this particular tune, interestingly enough, well, I think it's interesting anyway. Guns N' Roses debuted live cover at their second show of 2025, so the world tour, and With Love is what they chose.
Interesting. I wonder why. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a really good song, but I
yeah.
would have thought that
It wouldn't have been the yeah.
well, it wouldn't have been their choice. But also, I'm surprised almost that he's on their radar.
Oh, I think you can go back to okay. Let me go move back again, backtrack to Ireland and the early days of Slane Castle, and the first of those, the whole Slane Castle festival or music festival,
Hmm.
and the very very first one, um, Thin Lizzy headlined, and U2 was one of the supporting acts. There
Right.
you go. You know, so again, you've got that little juxtaposition in the Irish landscape in terms of guys who knew each other. All they're all related one way or another. The scene, Ireland's small, um, but Thin Lizzy was up there as the first to do it.
Yeah, I guess
And Guns N' Roses followed on. They did two further on. And I think Thin Lizzy doing something like that, I think came to a much bigger audience, a different audience, in fact,
Mm,
because it was, I mean, by 2023, though, that style of music venue has sort of been dialed back. And what you've now got all over the Western world anyway, but certainly from Australia up over into the States and certainly here in Ireland, the whole developed industry of music festivals, sort of complete packaged. And I mean, I can remember going back to 1981, and there was a very small. I have Slane Castle on the one hand, and on the other, I have a place called the Ballastadair Folk Festival, outside a place called Sligo, so it's the northwest of Ireland.
yep.
And here in a field, 5 miles outside this place called Sligo town, this music festival takes place, and in the you're all in these little tents in a real pretty much mud-filled
Mm.
field, as it were. And I know it's digressing a little bit, but the key act that night, which was phenomenal to be present to, was Chuck Berry.
Right.
And I can remember here in this very sort of brittle tent and a wooden stage with all of the wires and everything. I mean, it's sort of a nightmare of
Yeah.
wires. And here you had Chuck Berry doing the duck walk across the. Now, he was not a young man at that stage.
No.
But why that little bit of a storytelling? I mean, it's an Irish thing, storytelling. We want to tell stories. So forgive me on that one. But I'm just saying that there is a story of legends in the Irish music sphere. And Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy are standing the test of time and are actually having a new, I think, a new audience that's actually finding out and realizing the music.
Well,
But that's
and
why.
not before time, really,
No.
because they didn't get perhaps the global mega star
No,
that
but it
they
wasn't a
were.
global, there was no particular, as I say, the business industry of
No,
global relations,
yeah, perhaps not.
Um,
So on to the last track.
wow.
Uh,
Sorry,
yeah,
but it still is a big favorite.
yeah. So
Roisin Dove.
Yeah, the is both an original song and a medley incorporating traditional Irish songs and allusions from the poet William Butler Yeats to the soccer player George Best, a drinking pal of bandleader and principal songwriter Phil Lynott. The song was inspired by Lynnott's fascination with Irish history and Celtic mythology, and
Sure.
ironically was to become his epitaph.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the ironies of this is that his life was to be the death of him.
That's right. Yeah.
And apparently he had been lined up to play Hendrix in a biopic because he bore a striking resemblance.
Had to look. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was where the resemblance ended.
Yeah.
On the 4th of January, 86, he died.
Yeah. Heart and liver failure at that age. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Just
And do you know something? He had actually just got a record deal, and I think it was with Polydor, if I'm not mistaken. I could be corrected on that. And that was going to, for a full solo album, I think it would have been his 5th solo album. Again, maybe, bear out the years and myself, a little brain fog or whatever, but nevertheless, yeah, I'll go back to that statement. Only the good die young. But for Roisin Dove, this one person has said that it is an entire history of Ireland in 7 minutes.
So let's have a blast of that.
When the kings and queens would dance in the realm of the Black Rose, play me the melodies I want to know, so I can teach my children. Break down the story of the uncle Cullen, how his eyes were dark, his expression sullen, and how he fought and always won, and how they cried when he was fallen. Oh, tell me the story of the queen of this land, and how her sons died at old hand, and how fools obey commands. Oh, tell me the legend so long ago, where the mountains of Mourne come down to the sea.
It's just gorgeous, isn't it? Absolutely breathtaking. I mean, just the elegance of the story that he tells is just mesmeric, isn't it?
It
Tell
is.
me the legends of long ago when the kings and queens would dance in the realm of the Black Rose. Play me the melodies I want to know so I can teach my children. I mean, it's just lovely, isn't it? Absolutely lovely.
Yeah. Sorry, as you're just saying that now, I actually can feel in my back tingling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it is an incredible pulling together of all of these threads of like that traditional Irish look and feel, but modernized to the late 70s. So it was relevant and it was compelling and it was like John Renbourn from Pentangle would do, with taking old English songs and modernizing them and presenting them in that kind of rock folk kind of way, so that a song that was hundreds of years old would have relevance to a young audience today. And that is just so delightful, because it's somebody embracing their history and their culture and their upbringing, and trying to introduce a new audience to those old stories. Just, I think we should have a bit more of this. So I'm going to zip forward a bit.
Great.
You can hear the Irish dancing in this, can't you?
Dance the comely maidens at the crossroads.
Oh, tell me the legends of long ago, when the kings and queens would dance in the realms of the black rose. Play me the melody so that I might know, and I can tell my children.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is the best final track on an album that we've done on the show for a long, long, long time. It's just
Thank you.
an amazing way to round out a great album. And I think that the albums and there's a difference between a good album and a series of good tracks on a record. And good albums, they either kind of have symmetry from side to side, or often they kind of peak and then they peter out towards the end because the band have run out of ideas. And this kind of it's got such incredible diversity on the album, and then it finishes with this, which is, I mean, it is his greatest work, isn't it? It's just phenomenal track, and it's got so much complexity and depth to it. It's just delightful. So in 2005, a statue was erected to Lynott in Dublin. Apparently, I have not seen it myself, but next time in Dublin, I shall.
Yes, yeah. Rock's most criminally underrated band, but there is a Phil Lynott Songs for While I'm Away. It's a documentary on the life and music of Phil Lynott, and there is a quote that says he was a songwriter, a poet, a dreamer, and a wild man.
Absolutely, and yeah, absolutely, Mark. Thank you for picking it, Helen. Fantastic week. Next week, I'm being joined by Sean Matton, and we're going to do Master of Reality, Black Sabbath, which is turning it up to 11, really. So until then, have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for joining.